You are very welcome to Cawleys Call with me, Alan Cawley, powered by Benetti Menswear, a topical debate show covering all things Irish football, along with 1v1 interviews with top-class sports stars from a wide range of different sports.
It's me that's putting on the green jersey, me that's going to take flack from people to say, you're not even Irish. I was big enough to say, I'm going to take it.
There's many people I've spoke to, they always say, I used to put money on you scoring the first goal, but I've never seen any of that money though.
And Andy, he says, I want the performances that I got from you in Scotland with the under-16s, not that rubbish that you gave me over in Iceland. Yeah.
Hi everyone, and you're very welcome back to Cawleys Call, and we have a very, very special guest for you today. League of Ireland fans will remember this man, but most notably the Sligo Rovers fans will remember him. We're delighted to say we're joined by Mr. Paul Cook. How are you, Paul?
Good afternoon, Al. Good afternoon, everyone. As you can see by the voice on Saturday, we got beat 3-1 at Gillingham, and it never went great. I'm good.
Yeah, well, Before we get into the chat, Paul, it's a really good time to catch up with you because you've just been announced as the Ipswich Town manager. You said you had your first game on Saturday. So congratulations, first of all. And how did you find the game at the weekend?
It was tough, Al. You know yourself, Steve Evans, who's the Gillingham manager, he's one of the big characters and personalities in English football. He has been for a number of years. And to go to Gillingham, it's a tough game. It really, really is a tough game. They're very much on the front foot. They're very strong. They're very good at what they do, and we just got caught out on Saturday. So sometimes you hold your hands up. We were far off the pace of winning the game, you know. And sometimes when you're one of the bigger clubs in a division, everybody's up for playing you and everybody's up for beating you, and that's just part and parcel of playing for bigger clubs.
You're obviously sitting there in a very fancy office now as well, Cookie. You're looking great. You have glasses and everything. You're even looking more intelligent now than we knew you.
Hey, the glasses are just a con. They're just I don't even need them. I see some of the managers wearing them. I think, I'll have to try them glasses, won't we?
Just because you've had a little stint on the television as a pundit now, look, you're getting all fancy on it.
Do you know what, Al? It's quite funny, isn't it? Because the punditry, I know you're doing a bit yourself in Ireland. It can be really difficult, can't it? Because you know yourself, when you sit and watch a game, the games are easy. The games are easy. We all see the problems. You know, you listen to Roy Keane, don't you? And you wonder why there's ever been a bad footballer in football. Do you know what I mean? Like everybody should be as good as Roy. The game's not like that. The game's changed. The total personalities in football now, the characters the kids were building to come through, they don't have the same strength of character as previous regimes had. That's just modern society today, and that's just what you have to live with.
And Cookie, before, we all know you as the manager, obviously with Sligo Rovers, and the success that you've gone on to have since then. But what people probably don't realise with yourself, you had 650 games as a player, a brilliant career. Obviously, as you said, over the years, and playing at a time when, as you says, not only was society different, but the football was very different. Yeah. Do you look back on your career now, and I suppose, how much has that stood you in good stead for what you're experiencing now, and how different has it been?
I think one of the big things, Al, I think from anyone, and most people, we all go on to have families and kids and, you know, evolve. You know, you'll always think about how you enjoyed football, how you enjoyed watching the game, how you wanted the game to play. And I was very lucky. I had some very strong managers in my time, some really good characters, Stan Ternent, Phil Neal, Ron Atkinson, Gordon Strachan, Dave Stringer, Graham Taylor, do you know, the ex-England manager who's obviously passed away now, and that's a massive, you know, for football, a big loss. And I was lucky I played for a lot of really good football people. But in the time, as I went along, I always had certain, you know, criteria that I liked about the game. And, you know, I see in England now, for example, I'm not being clever, you know, they're all playing 4-2-3-1 and stuff like that. We were playing at that in Sligo 10 years ago. What are we doing? You know, Faz Kadozovic was one of the best number 10s I've seen. Now we can't find a decent number 10. We'll have to look Faz up and see where he is in Germany. You know, and I always had a clear sort of, you know, how I wanted football to be played. I like central midfielders to control the game. I wanted full backs. You know, you go back to the Sligo team with Chris Butler and Seamus Coleman. You wouldn't get two better attacking full backs in modern football than that. And I'd go as far as to say, I've had some really good players in my time. I've sold Anthony Robinson to Fulham last year, who had a move to Milan. Do you know, I've obviously had a lot of good full-backs, Tendai Derica, who's played. Them two lads are probably the most balanced, best 2 full-backs I've ever had in my time management.
Wow, that's some statement. And before we're going to get right into the Sligo story, Cookie, because as you say, it was just a brilliant story. You obviously had such an affiliation with the town and with the club and everything that went on, and obviously all the friends you made. So we are going to get right into the heart of that story. But I just want to touch on the fact that the career that you had and the characters that you played under, I suppose, and now obviously it's a different world we're living in now, and as a manager, would you have preferred to be a player nowadays, Cookie, or back in the days that you played?
Oh, without a doubt now. You're paid well more, Al, aren't you?
Yeah, but you wouldn't have been able to get up to half the things that you got up to.
Not even 3/4, Al, never mind half. And again, Al, we're just getting involved in social media. I would imagine, you know yourself, and I was telling the guys today, obviously with being manager at Ipswich, I played for Norwich, albeit for a brief time. And when I signed for Norwich, Al, as an 18-year-old kid that had never had a drink, never had a beer. I'd go to bed with my football boots every night and they'd be polished and clean. My kit would be ironed by my mum and I'd just live for football. I'd be out running every day. I had a ball hanging up in the garage because I wasn't good at heading. And then I signed for Norwich at 18. Wow.
Tell us.
Just shall we say, it opened my eyes to what was going on in football. And I jumped in off top board.
And you've never looked back since.
But Al, that was the culture of football.
Yeah.
I hadn't seen it before. I was a young inner city Liverpool lad playing for Wigan. I'd played 50 first team games for Wigan. I got a little move to Norwich, who were a Premier League club. And with the greatest respect to Norwich were no different than everyone else. The lack of professionalism at the clubs was ridiculous. The lack of the role models at the clubs, as you can imagine, Al, were certain types of characters. And it was probably, if you could drink more, it would be more of a role model than someone who could play well. That was England. That was English football. Yeah. And we were laughing today, Al, because I'm 54 now. That was 35 years ago.
Wow, really?
35 years.
Incredible.
And you look how the game's changed. And with the greatest respect to everyone from my generation and my time,
it's changed for the better. The professionalism now is what's good. You know, the role models, we are role models to young people. We're role models to kids. We can't conduct ourselves like we did. That was so wrong, it was untrue. But that was the times we were in. And now as times move forward, you've got to change with them. And we've always been, anyone who manages in football, Al, anyone who plays football at any level, you've got an obligation to be a role model. And it's important you do set good standards.
Absolutely, well said, Cookie, yeah. So we're going to take you to the Sligo period. 2007, Cookie, the 27th of April, I think it was, when you were announced as the manager. You just had 6 months at Southport. Before you got to Sligo, was the management something you always had in your mind? Obviously you had so many games in your career, you played under brilliant managers who you just outlined. Was the management thing something you always wanted to do? And how did the whole Sligo Rovers thing come about?
100%, Al. I'd finished my career. I was player coach at Accrington for John Coleman and Jimmy Bell. And by the time we won the conference in England by a lot of points, I was coaching a lot of good young Liverpool kids who just love footy. Gary Roberts being one of them. You know, as a young kid, Anthony Barry, Ian Crane, there was loads of good inner city lads coming through. And we were lucky we had such a unique team spirit under John. We had such a good team, you know, that we won the conference very, very well at a time when Accrington wouldn't have been paying the money of other teams. But Accrington's team was unstoppable because they were so good and full of vibrance and energy. So it was quite clear then that I wanted to go my own way. I really enjoyed my time under John. John's still a friend. He's a lifelong friend, John. You know, but I wanted to go my own way. What I didn't realise, Al, was what part budgets and money played in football. I thought you just rounded up good players from the streets and we all went and had a game of footy. I didn't know what it was like. And that's how naive I was. You know, I went to Southport, who were going from part-time to full-time, in the conference with a wage bill of £2,500 sterling a week. That was a full-time squad. I remember getting sacked and the chairman, Charlie Clapham, he said, I don't think your signings have been very good. And they were all getting £50 a week. Al, I said, which one? Because I think they're all useless. Never mind, bad, useless. But that was the big thing, Al. You know, it was my first real indication to what a part money plays for a coach or a manager. And one thing fans will always understand, managers have to be given a chance. If you're not given a chance financially, you don't ever have a chance of being successful. And when I left, I think Jerry Cassidy played a big part in me coming to Sligo. He had a strong relationship with the club in terms of recruiting players and managers. He's obviously a very strong friend of the club. And I come over to Sligo. I flew into Derry. I come over. We met the committee that consisted of probably Michael Toole and Mary McGowan, Loman Gallagher at the time, Fergal, these type of people. And what absolutely amazed me, I think, forgive me if I get some of the figures wrong, I think Sligo was spending something at the time like €15,000 a week. I thought I was joining AC Milan. I didn't realise. We're actually paying lads €700 a week. I thought, wow. And that was the first thing that got me. That was the first thing that got me, was the fact that I didn't know nothing about the League of Ireland. I didn't know nothing about Sligo. I watched us get beat 4-1 at home to St. Pat's. The showgrounds was half empty. Do you know, there was not many, the pitch wasn't great. But the reality, you had a chance to build a team. And that was the biggest thing that got me.
And what was, I suppose, Cookie, you mentioned there, you were a little bit wet behind the ears. You had the 6 months at Southport, small budget. You ended up getting sacked. The chance and the opportunity comes to go to Sligo. What was your initial reaction after obviously coming over, meeting the people? And you mentioned there the not many of a crowd, the pitch not great. Like for you on that first day from where you took it, but what was your kind of dream, I suppose, at the very start when you took that job? Or could you have even looked that far ahead?
No. I think at the time, I think the committee were looking for me to work with Jerry Carr. I think Jerry had been probably maybe looking to be manager of the club at the time or to have a go at it. And I think myself and Jerry got put together and we had a great relationship, me and Jerry. We really did. We had Jerry come to work for me at Chesterfield. I still speak to Jerry now. And he's a really good guy. And it was only through going for a pint with Jerry, getting to know a couple of the players, that you felt all of a sudden that this club had achieved stuff in the past that people were talking about. They were actually talking about Sean Connor at the time, who looked like he was going to have success, Sean, because he was building a bit of a team. I think, did Sean get promoted from League One into the Premier League?
Division One,
League One. Yeah. He'd brought the team up. And obviously at that time, and rightly so, Sean got, headhunted by Bohemians. And at the time, Al, yourself, the money the Dublin clubs were paying was ridiculous. So it was hard to keep good people. It was hard to keep managers or players. But certainly the likes of Conor O'Grady, the local lads in the team, you quickly felt that this club was a lot bigger than I actually thought it was. And the reality for it, the minute we started getting any type of success, you could see the support coming back. And with I think our first great night, I'll never forget it, with Mary McGowan. We beat Sean's team at the showgrounds, didn't we? Bohemians, and I quickly realised it meant a lot to the people of Sligo beating Dublin teams in the showgrounds. And that really come across to me.
It still does, Cookie. It still does.
And by the way, Al, I love that. And, I totally bought into that. I took things personal. I wanted to be the best manager in Ireland. I wanted to be the best coach in England. And all of a sudden, the marriage that we put together, it started growing really well. More on the fact that the committee just let me get on with the football. As we'll discuss in a bit, some of the problems that come round, the whole town, we're blessed in Sligo because there's some great people that will always make sure that club goes on. Vincent Nally, for example, me and Vincent used to kill each other at first, but we have a really good, respectful relationship now. I just thought Vincent didn't want to give me money for players. He actually does.
His son doesn't want to give me money now for a podcast.
Vincent, along with other people, wanted to make sure that we had a football club, and great credit to them for that.
You mentioned it there, Cookie, about in the early days, I suppose, you got a sense straight away just how mad of a soccer town it is and the brilliant people that are involved. Because of, I suppose, your upbringing and where you're from, and you're very sociable, a man of the people, you love that. Was it like a home from home for you straight away, that the welcome gym with open arms?
Probably too much at times in the end, Al. That's the truth of it. You genuinely become too familiar to people. And that's something that, in football today, I don't think people realise, in general, football managers are normal people. And one of the disappointing things, and even go back to your own tenure at Sligo, I should have been a bit more to myself. I should have been a little bit more introvert. But at times it's tough when you're away from home on your own. The natural thing is to go for a pint and do stuff like that. But sometimes you don't realise that, in Sligo, everyone loves Sligo Rovers. Everywhere. And that's something when I look back, I think to myself, should I have been a bit more professional at times? Should I have done this and that? But I look back and I don't have no regrets on that. Because I give Sligo everything I had. Everything.
But I think that's what people appreciate the most, Cookie, was the fact that you're saying it's easy to look back now and say you could have maybe done things a bit more professional, whatever. But the team spirit that you built up amongst the lads and the fact that you were willing to go down to town and mix and mingle with the people, and as you said, just a normal person like everyone else, I think the local people of Sligo love that about you.
Well, that's one of the things, Al. The majority of my best players were good drinkers, weren't they?
Yeah. We'll go through them now as well.
No, but it's the truth of it, Al. We love nothing better than coming back from Dublin on a Friday night and getting out on the Friday. No one had family there then. No one had. So we were out Friday night. We'd have a few in Saturday afternoon. You'd watch the results come in. And then by Sunday, we'd be regrouped to go again. But by the way, Al, my Sligo team was one of the fittest teams you'll ever see. My Sligo teams didn't dip out in anything. Whatever teams wanted to do, we could do it against them, whether that was football or fight. We had characters like Conor O'Grady, Rafael Catero. They're the toughest lads you'll ever meet. And they like a social night. They're great lads. They love their football. And also, they love playing for Sligo Rovers.
Yeah, they love their hometown, absolutely. You mentioned a couple of them there, obviously Coleman and Butler in the early days when you first came over, Cookie. Two brilliant players. That's high praise that you're giving them there a moment ago about, of all the years since and the players that you've had, that they were two of your most best full-backs you've ever had.
I think Seamus's career is there for all to see. I think everyone in Sligo and all the counties of Ireland are very, very proud of Seamus Coleman. So I don't think Seamus needs me giving him many more, whatever the word is. I think Seamus knows what we all think of Seamus. We're very proud.
Cookie,
I think the sad thing...
Could you actually see from day one, if somebody said to you Seamus would go on to captain Ireland, have the successful career that he's had, captain Everton, could you see that in him at the time, or was it too early to tell?
Now, Seamus's biggest quality is that he would always be better tomorrow than he was today. You couldn't stop Seamus Coleman improving. And it's something that I still talk to my own younger players about at every club. You must come in today and want to be better than you were tomorrow. And Seamus had that in abundance. We all know his quality. We've all seen everything he's done. Seamus's desire to get better was like a beacon. And you couldn't stop that lad from progressing. I don't think anyone saw the progression where he's gone. From the timid lads we all knew with an absolutely beautiful family that used to come down from Killybegs to watch him play. He had that support and he still stayed such a grounded boy. And it's great. We're all proud of Seamus. I think the disappointing thing from my point of view, at that stage of the both careers, Chris Butler would have been probably what we'd have deemed to be a better player. And obviously what happened to Chris with the car crash, etc., is probably one of the saddest things to come out that Sligo story.
It is desperately sad. I remember playing against Chris myself at the time, and exactly as you say, he was a serious talent. How big of a cookie was it for you to maybe bring over lads from where you were from that you knew? Obviously, Ventry came over, was a huge success with Sligo as well, took to the town straight away. His family used to come over, visit the town, became great friends with people in the town. How important was that as well for you settling in the early days?
Do you know one of the biggest things now, Al, is Danny Ventry, Owen Doyle, Matthew Blinkhorn, Raphael Catero, loads of them lads. They're still best mates today. Gavin Pearce, sorry. They've made lifelong friends now. And one of the most pleasing things I think we all used to enjoy, probably a little bit too much now and again, Al, we'd win quite most Saturday nights and we'd have a good night Saturday. We'd get into town. There was always a hospitality bar after the game. It was the one on the river. Forgive me if I can't remember the name. What was that called, Al?
The Glass House, was it? Fiddlers, the Fiddlers.
Fiddler's Creek, of course, it was called Fiddlers.
Yeah, Fiddler's Creek.
And
yeah.
You'd see so many.
I can't believe you forgot Fiddler's Creek, Cookie.
But you'd see everyone's families in there, Al. You'd see everybody interacting. You'd see everyone getting back there. We had a great squad of players, as the team progressed to the team that are left. Do you know, the team did evolve and change. Do you know? But like the people's families come up, Gavin Pearce's mum and dad, Conor O'Grady's parents, whoever it was, everybody interacted and got to know each other out. And them Saturdays after games were fantastic nights.
I spoke to, on the podcast last year, to Richie Ryan, Owen Doyle, Pádraig Hammond, and I had this little thing, a question at the end, Cookie, where I was asking who was the best manager you played under. And no coincidence, despite the careers the boys have had, they all said yourself, and they said the biggest strength that you had was how good you made them feel and how, I suppose, telling them how good they were, but your man management was second to none. Was that something that you inherited from managers that you had over the years, or how important was that to you, especially at a club at Sligo, to have that, I suppose, bond and spirit amongst all the lads?
That's something I still carry today, Al. Do you know, confidence is key. No matter what industry we're in, you can guarantee even in your punditry work, you'll be a lot more confident now than you probably were when you first started. It's just what we go through. And you've got to put them lads in places that they're going to be on a Saturday night, a Friday night, and you've got to make them feel that they can conquer the world. If you don't give them that confidence, they'll never be the players they can be. You know, we all take great pride in the lads' careers, and I always like to think that I played a small part in it. You know, because all them boys that we speak about have a talent. So I used to love watching Katero and Bocco up front, for example, because there wasn't a blade of grass they wouldn't cover out. The pair of them, it's like they competed against each other who could work the hardest. And that was always great. You know, from the lads at the back, you know, the likes of Gavin Pearce and the likes, and even the ones we brought in, you know, they were all great lads. Like, you know, and as you know yourself now in football today, one of our recruitment process that we try and go through, no dickheads. And there's a lot of dickheads around football. We didn't have any in Sligo. We had a few other people in Sligo, but they weren't dickheads, that's for sure.
We can't name any of them.
No!
We can't name them. In your second year, you obviously qualified for Europe. I think you finished fourth. I suppose initially, Cookie, the players you were bringing in, you were starting to bring in, you mentioned the budget, you were starting to bring in a better quality of player, I suppose, and things were beginning to move. At what stage did you feel as though we could be challenging to be winning cups and leagues here at this stage?
It was very tough at first, Al. It was really tough because the big teams at the time were the likes of even Drogheda, you know, Cork. I think Paul Doolan was managing Drogheda. There was a lot of, it was the Celtic Tiger time, wasn't it? You know, where there was a lot of money, and you know, some of the big players down at Cork were getting a lot of money. I can't remember the owner's name, but he was bumming. And we were on the back of that, but we had players then. The first indication was that other clubs start wanting your players. Ireland was a very, very small place in terms of every team knew each other. And all of a sudden, Adam Hughes, Faradin Kadozovic, the good players we had, started not wanting to leave, but the financial side of it was a lot different for them. You know, my job as the manager and the committee's job was to try and convince them that if we start getting weaker, we'll never be strong. And if we've got a chance of being successful, we have to keep, if we can, our better players. And I remember one of the good stories with Paul Doolan. Do you know that? You know, Jogger to come in for Kadozovic. No, Adam Hughes, I think it was. It was one of them. And we just refused to sell him. And I was so proud of the committee because he was tight. Paul Doolan, I think, was telling me, well, we'll just take him at the end of the season. Oh, well, we'll just take him then. Stop telling me, just do it. You with me? But you're not getting them now. And that was really good.
Was that a hard sell, Cookie, for you, obviously wanting to keep the better players, but trying to convince the committee that we must keep the better players here if we want to be successful?
100%. And you know yourself, you're talking like at the club at the time, we went through all the monetary problems, the club got, you know, the people, Mary McGowan's especially, the people I got close to and I'm still close to today. You know, John McHugh and lads like that. There's so many good people, Vincent Nally being obviously my main one, because our relationship started off terribly with me and Vincent. But we quickly realised that we both wanted the same thing and we were probably both quite good at what we do. So instead of interfering in each other's jobs, let's not work together. And Sligo was full of people like that. You know, keeping that club going at that time, was an absolutely outstanding achievement. And that's great credit to the town of Sligo.
And then, Cookie, after the European thing, and I suppose you got to the cup final, which was a massive moment. Unfortunately, lost to Fingal. I remember it was the coldest day of the year in Tala. I remember being at it. But Was that all the little baby steps in terms of thinking we're on the right path here? Despite you losing, how much did that kind of set you up for the following year to go on and win the cup and the year after that?
You've got to feel pain now to be successful. You have to feel pain. If you aren't driven by pain, there's something wrong with you. That was the best pain we could ever get as a football club. I remember going up to Alan Keane's room, who was sitting upstairs. I think Alan was very upset in his room. And I said to him, get downstairs and have a drink. You've got to remember what it feels like losing. And to become a loser, it's got to help you become a winner. I remember Dermot Kelly's famous one to me, do you know, we've got no winners in the team. I said, I know, because we've never won nothing. We don't pay enough money to bring them. We ended up signing people like Joseph and Doe, who were winners. And the most pleasing thing for that Sligo Rovers team that won the cup, they overcome all the pain to become winners. And the winner never stopped for them lads, and I was so proud of them.
Was there a point, Cookie, you mentioned Joseph there, and we all know how brilliant Joseph was and the career that he had in the League of Ireland, but obviously with Sligo Rovers. And was there a point under your tenure, you mentioned there the conversations with Vincent, Dermot Kelly, the committee members trying to get the better players in, as any manager would. Was there a point that you felt, say, Doe coming into the dressing room, this is it now, I have my team set up?
Do you know what, Al, the saddest thing, I think, for everything about it, my time at the club, especially when I had to leave to go home, do you know what I mean? I've been in Sligo 4.5 years. You know, Joanne and Connor had been brought up, my son, you know, had gone to nursery in Sligo. They'd been over there for 2 years and struggled to settle, if the truth be known. Do you know, and I knew that I had to be successful in Ireland if I had to have a career in England. Do you know, and the most saddest thing was the team that I actually left when I left, Al, I think it was, you know, without being disrespectful, it was quite a simple team to manage, wasn't it? The lads were ready. They were primed. They were good. You know, the whole squad was good. They were ready to win. They'd been successful. They'd won trophies. The calibre of player had gone through the roof. And it was quite pleasing because the calibre of player had gone through the roof without us overspending. You know, the Dublin lads coming down without greatest respect, they weren't on fortunes in money. But the proudest thing for myself and the committee should be, we changed Sligo from a place where people used to look at and not want to be to where everyone in Ireland wanted to play for Sligo Rovers. And that was a magnificent achievement by us all.
Absolutely brilliant, Cookie. And I'm going to get to the time, I suppose, when you did move on. But before that, there was the period, obviously, as you say, you were after winning the couple of cups as well. So that must have been an unbelievable achievement for yourself. You mentioned it was probably difficult in terms of Joanne wanting to go home, but you felt yourself, you had to be successful here to go on to bigger things in England.
Without a shadow of a doubt, Al, it's something that drives me on. Do you know, one of the things about your career, even when I was out of work, people would say, well, you've won the league with Portsmouth, you've won the league with Wigan, you've won the league with Chesterfield, you've been successful in Ireland. But all I was interested in is where can I be successful next? You know, I'm not a believer in looking back, especially in sport. I think if you look back, you become complacent. Do you know, my disappointing thing from Wigan, the Wigan team that had finished, was 3 years of hard work, and that Wigan side would have gone close to the Premier League. They were very good, but it was my hard work alongside a lot of other people.
Joe, managers in England, Al, they take the brunt of the criticism and they get the adulation when you win. But there's so much more behind a manager. There's so many other people, you know, good people. And that's even the same in Sligo. Do you know, I had people like Dermot Brannigan that would have done anything for me in the club. And they're people that people don't really speak about or recognise. Do you know, Maurice Morahan. Do you know, people that people don't ever speak about. You know, myself and Jerry were at the head of it. Do you know, but we had great people around us. You know, people that wanted to work, people that wanted to sell lottery tickets and, you know, and make the club better.
Everybody speaks, Cookie, and for me, knowing you personally, about your passion, and it's bursting out of here now, which is brilliant. 10 years later, and you're still reeling off the names, like, so it must have had such an imprint on you, your time at Sligo.
Best days of my life.
Honestly.
By far. Best days, most enjoyable. When you get success for the first time, it's the best feeling in the world. I remember in Sligo, I knew when we were heading for trouble. We qualified for Europe in one of the first years that I was there. And the town partied for a week, Al. A week. We qualified for Europe the next year and everyone just went home. And it was like
a change in the culture of what we were thinking about. Everyone wanted to qualify for Europe. I think we beat Bray at home in the last game to qualify, and the showgrounds was chocker, and the feeling was unreal. And as a manager, you know that if you are successful, all your challenges are ahead of you. Do So I don't mind saying beating Shamrock Rovers in them finals, I absolutely loved.
I couldn't think of nothing better. It was great. It was unbelievable. You know, that emotion and that feeling that you get from actually winning is something that absolutely drives you.
One of the tags that are, I suppose, a label that's put on since you've left, the managers that are there now, and for me, maybe in the punditry, looking in, analysing Sligo or praising them or being critical, whatever the case may be, a lot of people try and say, oh, well, it's very hard to attract players to Sligo. And I always go back to you. And I say, Paul Cook didn't find it hard to attract players to Sligo because you were obviously selling them the dream. You said they weren't on big money at the time. But you had no problem attracting them.
I used to bring them over whenever we were playing in Europe. We'd have all the tents up. There'd be thousands of people everywhere. They thought that was every week, Al, didn't they?
I went, this is what you're going to get. So they'd all sign on the Monday. By the next week, all the tents had gone back and we were playing someone like Bray at home. It was fun. But, you know, it was the lads bought into it. You know, the lads that you look back on, there was so many, even lads like Sean Doherty and lads that come over that weren't as successful maybe as we wanted to. But, you know, the reality for the club, we had what I call in England now, most clubs in England are dysfunctional because they have something in the system that's stopping them. We had something in the Sligo that no one could stop. We had an unbelievable team spirit. We had lads that had just absolutely, you know, you got to be careful how strong you say it, but they'd run over broken glass for each other. You know, we created a culture that winning was so important. You know, and it was great because of the Dublin stuff and Sligo that we created that. They think they're better than us. You know, when we go to Dublin, you know, one of the best nights for us all, I think, when we beat Bohemians to qualify for the final. You know, we went up to Dalymount live on the telly and we played Bohemians off the pitch. We were night and day better than Bohemians. And I think we won 2-0. And I think they were the times that the lads actually felt everything you were telling them that they could achieve. There was no fear in us no more. You know, we didn't look down at Bohemians, at Glenn Crowe and Jason McGuinness and them lads and fear them. We made them look down at us and think, wow, we've got our hands full.
It's amazing to hear you say that, really, because I definitely think, me coming from Sligo, and obviously I've lived up here a long time now in Dublin, but there is, even since you've left, I still look at the team nowadays and I still think there's that inferiority complex looking at the Dublin clubs. And I'm blue in the face trying to tell people that shouldn't be the case, that after what you had achieved, so many people, the club now has never been better in terms of the resources. Cookie, the stadium looks great, the training, everything is in place for the club to be so successful. But yet, I find as though that ambition or that drive that you had and that others had maybe with you, I don't think that's there now.
I think one of the things, Al, we've got to be careful with football, and you know yourself from the punditry, we have to give someone time. You have to. Do you know, I'm a massive believer in managers getting time, and the problem is now, and I think one of my best qualities as a manager, and it's not me being clever, I actually made the fans and the committee believe that the future's going to be good. And that might have been by just qualifying for Europe, just winning the League Cup. It was always little steps. And unfortunately for managers now, they've got to make their bosses feel that they're going to be the one that will change what they're doing. And I think in management, that's massive. You can't be successful overnight. You know, you can't go round and change and conquer the world. You know, putting teams together now is a lot more difficult than window to window to window. You know, you get a good player, it's the same in England now. If you get a good player, the likelihood is someone wants to take him off you. It's been no different in Ireland. But if you look back, I was there 4.5 years. And in that 4.5 years, you look at the change in players. You look at how the players were, the success that we had, the identity of the team. There was a lot of things that went into making that team good.
How hard was it then, Cookie, for you were after winning the couple of cups, you had success, the place was buzzing. You mentioned there that just as you were about to leave and you had to go home, that the team was ready now to win a league. Is that something that you look back and think, I would have loved to have stayed to win a league with that team?
Yeah, it's one of my biggest regrets in my life, Al. I should have stayed one more year. I should have won the league for Sligo, which I'm convinced we would have done. I remember, I think I come over and I'd done an RTE game and we beat Shamrock Rovers 3-0. And it was like the happiest, saddest day of my life. To be in the showgrounds, it was absolutely rammed. We absolutely battered Ian Barraclough's team, battered Shamrock Rovers 3-0. But it was every player that had signed. So while I was happy for Ian, and I was happy for Ian, I genuinely was, I was so happy for the people of Sligo because I know what winning the league meant to the people, the committee, to all the hard work that goes in. There was a real tinge of sadness in me as well that it wasn't me.
It's amazing that you still say, even when you're describing that, it was we and it was our team. Because the one thing I will give Barraclough credit for, because I have said it many times, that was your team. The team that went on, fair play to them, they did win the league. He was the manager at the time. But as I always say to people, Cookie assembled that team. It was his team. But the one thing I think he did very well, Cookie, was he came in late in the day. I think it was it the night before the season was due to start or the week before, but he came in late in the day. You had the squad assembled, but he never changed anything. He didn't try and come in and be clever. He just stuck to what you had assembled, and to be fair, he got the results and won the league.
Listen, that team was ready to go. That team was good. Team good. The reality is Ian had to manage that team. With the greatest respect, I'm a football person. I love it. I'm very proud of what I did at Sligo. That wasn't my team that won the league. That was Ian Barraclough's team. And that's correct. That's right. Ian's a good guy. He's a good manager and he deserves all the plaudits he gets for winning that. That was a great night for Ian and his family. And that's what football's about. I think all I really hope, and I know that the people of Sligo know I played a big part in helping put that team together.
Do you think, Cookie, you get the credit that you deserve for your time at Sligo, or is there a little bit of sadness with maybe how it ended, that you had to go home before maybe winning the league?
That's all. Listen, it's football today, isn't it? One of the things I learn, Al, I think time makes people think of you fonder. I think that's all the clubs. I think Portsmouth fans still love me at the minute. It's football, Al. And it's not a popularity contest. Are you with me? Do you know, the reality for it is you have a time and a place. I still have a lot of friends from Sligo. I still see people from Sligo. I still speak to people from Sligo. So, you know, one of the disappointments, I haven't been back to Sligo enough, because I had great times there and need to go over more. I've got a lot of friends there, and it'd be great just to sit in the stands at the showgrounds and enjoy a game. My career's been my career now. So I've gone on. I don't have things to prove to people. I don't have, to say I've got to do this, I've got to do that. I want to be successful in management, but I'd love the fact that I acknowledge what Sligo done for me 100%. I hope the majority of people thinks the same from Sligo.
Oh, they absolutely do, and it's brilliant speaking to you today, Cookie, but I want to know, where was the tent when I came down to sign for you?
You legged it, mate, didn't you? You realised we were a running team. That's what stopped you signing, didn't you?
We need to clear this up. I'm just glad that you're still speaking to me after that, because as I tell people, I did shake hands and all, but...
Al, do you know what's sad in football sometimes? We all make mistakes and we all do things wrong. That's not speaking about yourself, by the way, Al, in any shape or form.
It was, though.
But you know the truth, Al, you love Sligo Rovers. You know you do. You've been in Dublin ground supporting your team. Unfortunately for you as well, that could have possibly been you involved in them games. But you've always been a strong Sligo lad. I think the biggest thing, Conor O'Grady realised that he couldn't do your running for you, didn't he? So he said, "No, I'm not playing with you, my friend."
No, even from speaking to Conor, speaking to lads, I knew what was going on then, Cookie. Yeah. Look, it's something, I don't have many regrets, but I do look back and think, if only, and it would have been amazing. But we're still good friends, we're still good pals anyway.
That's how it should be, Al.
Yeah, and I love the fact as well, I want to put this on the record of time, just how good you were, even when we went over to Liverpool for Conor's stag and you come out and spent the day with us and all, and so you'd be more than welcome back in Sligo any time, Cookie. You should go back. You mentioned there that you haven't been back in a long time. I think you should go back.
Yeah, listen, by the way, I can guarantee people it's something I'll be doing very, very soon. It's me mum, me dad, me family, everybody was made so welcome in Sligo. It'll always be a place close to my heart, and I will be there soon, 100%.
You've gone on to do brilliant things. I won't keep you much longer, but you've gone on to do brilliant things. Obviously, the career in England, and it's going from strength to strength. Just how difficult was it leaving Wigan, Cookie, but now, and the period of time you spent out of the game, but the fact that you've obviously gone back in at Ipswich, how delighted are you?
Listen, Ipswich is an unbelievable club, Al. I'm sitting here at the training ground now. Do you know what we spoke about before with Sligo, and you mentioned the infrastructure of a football club is so important. It's great to hear that Sligo have got them training facilities. The showgrounds was always coming on, wasn't it? You come here today, we've got an indoor AstroTurf pitch, a dome, we've got 4G, we've got swimming pools, we've got pitches everywhere. The Wigan, my time at clubs, I'll have moved on from clubs because of a reason. At Chesterfield, we had whatever, and we were, they wanted to sell players. And then at Portsmouth, there was a change in ownership. But Wigan was the saddest story because we were 3 years in and we were putting together such a strong team. The team was so good, it was so powerful, it was so balanced, and we never got to see the benefit of all the hard work. And the resigning was a simple thing, Al. You don't have to go into it. We were playing, I think it was whoever it was, one of the games we were playing, and the administrators had sold the player behind my back. You hit me, the deal was done and we expected the player to play. And it's not the administrator's fault, Al. It's the club's fault. It's the owners that had put the club in the position. The administrators are doing the job. And like I said to my staff, I'm not going to sit back now and watch everything that we've built be took away from us. I had to resign. I knew what I was doing. It was sad for me because the people of Wigan, 94 people lost their jobs, Al. These people don't have managers. We're on big money. We're on big contracts. We don't struggle for a day or two. But these people, it's the life. They live in the town. They need money to feed the families, and it broke my heart. It really did. So seeing Wigan now hopefully get back on the feet. We sold 21 players in the summer. Wigan sold. Imagine building something and see 21 of your players leave. So Liam Richards still there. They're fighting like mad to stay in League One. I have to go there in 10 days. I'll take Ipswich, don't I? And that's footy. And I've had so many letters from Wigan fans you wouldn't believe, all wishing me well. And I look back on my time, and hopefully I hope the supporters of every club that I've been at realise I've given them all my best, and life goes on.
Oh, they absolutely know that. Troy Parrott is obviously there with you now. There's a lot of hope about Stephen Kenny taking over and a new breed of young lads coming through and exciting talent. He's one that a lot of people over here, Paul, are pinning their hopes on. From the little bit that you've seen him so far, can you enlighten us on just how good he might be?
I've only been with Troy. I've been in the building now, I think, for 5-6 days, Al. Troy's, as for first impressions, he's an absolutely fantastic young man that works so hard, both on and off the pitch. So at the minute, I'm just finding out we've been playing him as what they call a number 10. And the reality, I'm getting told more and more Troy's a number 9. He wants to lead the line. So I've had Troy in this morning speaking to him. My job's to get you in your correct position so we can see you play as well as we all know you are. I think obviously I've got bright hopes for Troy. I think Troy's a very level-headed lad. He knows how hard he's got to work because if you're at Tottenham, you've only got Harry Kane and Son in front of you, haven't you? So it's not too hard to break in there, and to qualify and to play for your national team's a big honour. So hopefully I can have a small impression on Troy. My first impressions are that he's going to be a very good young player.
Okay, Cookie, it's been an absolute pleasure. Fair play to you for giving us the time. We wish you all the best with Ipswich. Everybody's been following your career, obviously, since you left Sligo. You had such an impact on the people of Sligo, and still to this day. And I know Vincent Nally and all the people there remember you so fondly. And to hear you remembering all the names as well, I know people who will listen to this podcast will be delighted with that, Cookie. So fair play.
Just thanks very much to yourself and Vincent for having me on. And certainly a really goodwill message to all the people of Sligo that hopefully I can see you all soon. And best wishes to everyone for the future.
Thanks, Cookie.
All the best, lads. Take care.
Thank you for listening to Cawleys Call, powered by Benetti Menswear. For more interviews like this, please subscribe to my podcast or follow on all my social media channels.